Hello everyone, and thank you for watching my video on the lower extremity functional test, also known as the LEFT or the left. We'll start with a video demonstration. Just make sure this is in HD. So it should be noted that there are a couple of different ways to perform the lower extremity functional test. The one that I demonstrate in the video is the one that is given in the textbook, and that is one in which you set up two cones 10 yards apart. You start at cone 1, sprint to cone 2, backpedal back to cone 1, shuffle to cone 2, shuffle back to cone 1, karaoke to cone 2, karaoke back to cone 1, and then sprint to cone 2 to finish while being timed. When you look at the research on the left, there's actually more often an examination of a diamond variation. So I've shown the diagram for the diamond variation here, in which two cones are spaced 30 feet apart, so 10 yards, and then two cones are spaced 10 feet apart, about 3.3 yards apart. And as I've shown on the right here, and this procedure is from Tabor et al. 2002, this is a slightly more complicated version. The test methodology is similar in the sense there is sprinting, backpedaling, shuffling, karaoke, etc. But the diamond variation also includes 45-degree cuts, figure eight patterns through weaving through the cones, as well as 90-degree cuts. So it takes a little bit longer to perform, and there's a broader range of movements that are performed. This one, to my eye, looks a little bit more sport specific, and as though it's a little bit more mirroring the cornering requirements that you see in sports like basketball or soccer. So what are the qualities that are assessed in the LEFT? Lateral speed and agility. So under time we can simply assess how fast someone is in these sport relevant movements. When we look at the research, I would say that one relevant use of this is as ready to determine readiness to return to sport in a rehabilitation context. So an athlete who has sustained a lower extremity injury, a physical therapist can use this test and compare that athlete to matched norms and say whether or not this athlete is ready to return to play. They can also, given the established reliability of the test, which I'll discuss in a minute, they can also compare the athlete to his or her prior times. There is some evidence that this test can be used to predict lower extremity and low back injury risk, but the research on that is mixed. So, pros and cons. I think a pro of this compared to other agility tests is that it includes sport relevant movement patterns, especially if you look at the diamond test. There are 90-degree cuts, 45-degree cuts, cornering during the figure eights, shuffling, backpedaling, karaoke. So that is very, if we're talking about team sports like basketball or soccer, especially court and field-based sports, the movements that are going on here are relatively relevant to those sports. It's also been established by Tabor et al. 2002 as a reliable test, so from test to test, the results are the same. A con may be that it may not truly predict injury risk. As I mentioned, the research on that is mixed. So, the research on the validity and reliability of this test. Interestingly, the same lead researcher examined this test in both 2013 and 2018 and came up with different results. The structure of these studies was relatively similar. Athletes, Division III collegiate athletes, both male and female, performed the left. They were timed, and they were tracked over the course of their season through the athletic training staff for various injuries. Brummett et al. 2013 found that those athletes with slower times had significantly greater risk of experiencing injuries to their lower back or their lower extremity, so their knee and ankle and foot. Then Brummett et al. 2018 did a similar study to before to validate the test, and they did not find that there was a prediction of injury risk. They performed a um, very similar study in which athletes performed the test. They tried to determine if performance was associated with injury risk over the course of the year, and they did not find that to be the case. Brummett et al. 2018 does mention, though, that it's a useful test in a rehabilitation setting when determining whether or not an athlete is ready to return to play. And then much earlier, this is I think when the test first came out, Tabor et al. 2002 simply examined between researchers and between days, was an athlete's time the same? Was it reliable? Could they repeat it from day to day? And they found that the test was extremely reliable. My references can be found here. And that wraps it up for the lower extremity functional test. Thanks so much for watching.